Right, okay. Very good evening to all of you. Today we are discussing about mergers and acquisitions, the revision session. Uh, in this session, we will try to cover all the aspects of mergers and acquisitions, starting from definition to the reasons of mergers and acquisitions, and then what are the main steps of a merger and acquisition, different payment methods, and then different arrangements of mergers and acquisitions, and then we will further discuss what are the different strategies of for a target company in terms of a merger and acquisition at a hostile bid. And then we will be discussing why the mergers and acquisitions are failing in the world and how it can be turned around and make it successful with a couple of questions on different areas. So starting with, we will refresh the knowledge of what is mergers, what is an acquisition. Starting with merge and acquisition. Now, in certain books, even though a firm has gone for an acquisition, it would be expressed as merger. I'll give you an example. So, when it comes to, let's try to get the basic idea of this. If company A and B, these are the two entities. If it is a merger, company A will merge with company B, and then a new entity will be formed, and which we call AB. And you need to remember, there is no A anymore, there's no B anymore. It's A and B together. It's a new registration, a new firm. But in an acquisition, let's assume there's a company called A and company called B. When they acquire a firm, at the end, if A acquire B, A will remain and B will absorb to A. And as you can see from the previous one, there's a new entity was created, but in the acquisition, there was no new entity. It's a one entity is taking over another firm. So as a result, the company A will remain same at as a large organization, where B will absorb to A. B will no longer there existing. But as I told you, today, sometimes even an A take over B and B disappear and A will remain same. Some firms like to interpret that situation also as a merger. The main reason is, when you are being acquired, you know that your rights will be taken over by the other firm, which people are scared and they don't want to happen in that way. Therefore, even the certain acquisitions are interpreted or named as mergers because of this reason. But however, there's a distinct difference between acquisition and merger. So we were talking about mergers and acquisitions. A good example for a merger would be Glaxo and SmithKline. These two are pharmaceutical firms. Glaxo is one firm and a SmithKline is another firm. When they merge with each other, they create a large pharmaceutical company, which is one of the biggest in the world. We call GlaxoSmithKline. So it's a new entity. Where if you take a local example for the acquisition, if A take over B, if Dialog as an acquirer, when they take over Suntel, then the Dialog will remain same and then Suntel will no longer there. So this is an example in a real world context. So now we understand why we need to merge an acquisition organization. So here it's clearly defined. A merger and an acquisition. It's a merger is a combination of two companies to form a new company, while an acquisition is a purchase of a one company by another in which no new company is formed. So that's very important. So in an acquisition, there is no new company will form. This is based on investopedia.com. So now we will go into different types of mergers and acquisitions. So in theory, there are three types of mergers and acquisitions. One is vertical merger. What is a vertical merger? Vertical merger can be further explained as forward integration and backward integration. So this is where we discuss in a supply chain, you see there are different roles starting from manufacturer, then the manufacturer will sell the products to the wholesaler, and then there will be a retailer or probably a distributor, and then it will go to the customer. So a forward integration is where, let's assume a wholesaler or a manufacturer would like to take a one step ahead in their supply chain. So if you take an example, a wholesaler taking over a retail firm would be a forward integration. So you integrate with the next step of your supply chain, and then you will have more power or bargaining power and many other benefits being another taking over another firm in the same line of business. So that's a forward integration. So if you take an example, let's assume a wholesale vegetable firm is going to take over a retail chain. They would be able to enjoy much higher margins because they can take that profit of the retailer before they give it to the customer. So then you can always give the best price and always create the market leadership through that. So that's about the forward integration. How about backward integration? Backward integration is in the same supply chain, one firm is taking a one step back in their system and trying to acquire a firm. So if you take an example, a wholesaler taking over the manufacturer or the retailer taking over the wholesaler would be a clear example of a backward integration. A firm like Telma, if they are taking over a tea factory, if they take a firm which is manufacturing, would be, we call it's a backward integration. A Cargill's Food City, who are good in retail chain, is taking over a farm, a vegetable farm, a fruits farm, where they will take the backward integration. So again, there are many reasons for that, but it's a way in the same business line. Either we take a one step ahead or one step back. So let's move on to the next area, that horizontal merger. Horizontal merger is a little bit different to the vertical merger. This is actually, you are not going to take over in the same supply chain, but you will take someone horizontally, where for an organization you are in the same line of business, you will take another competitor. Now if you take an example, let's say Cargill's Food City, we call this Cargill Sri Lanka, as a retail chain, they're taking over another retail chain. It can be, let's say they are thinking of taking over Apico, another retail chain would be the horizontal merger. So you take another competitor in your same line of business, a one garment factory taking over another garment factory. It should be in the same line of business. A hotel chain taking over another hotel, a travel agent taking over another uh, ticketing office. It can be same line of business, another step. A hospital chain taking over another hospital, an educational group taking over another school or an education institute will be a horizontal merger. So as you can say, it's expansion in the particular business line. Then we are talking about conglomerate merger, which is a little bit different to the other mergers. Here what we are doing is, we would like to minimize the risk. So therefore, they are thinking of taking over another firm which is not in your line of business, because if, as you know, that a lot of factors which impact the industries. So in case if you have a danger for your or threat for your industry, by having a foot into another industry will be in a better off situation. So they would always think of conglomerate mergers where a combination of companies from unrelated business line. An airline is thinking of buying an educational firm, or a hospital chain is thinking of buying a food manufacturing firm, or an agricultural firm is taking over a school. It is not in the same line of business. It's totally unrelated, but as a risk strategy, they will use these conglomerate mergers. And you see in Sri Lanka, one of the largest organizations are all group of firms. They are into many different industries and businesses. So they will go with the conglomerate mergers. So these are the types of mergers and acquisitions that you see in the world. So now we will move on. Why a firm would like to go to be acquired by another firm, or why a firm would like to be merged? There are many reasons. One of the key reasons is synergy, because synergy will help a firm to be much more stronger and work as a team and achieves benefits. So synergy is always a main factor for two entities to work together. So if you can see, when the firms get together, the business activities and the performance will increase and the cost will reduce. Of course, we are talking about economies of scale. Your production will have a huge, increase your capacity, which will lead to economies of scale. On the same time, that will save cost, save your overheads, save your advertising expenses, save your staff cost, or save your rent cost. So as a result, you will be able to enjoy the benefit and share to all your shareholders. The next one is diversification. This is what we just discussed in the conglomerate mergers. Through diversification strategy, so you can see there are so much of mergers and acquisitions happen, and one of the main reasons is to diversify your businesses. On the other hand, sharpening your business focus. So these goals will help a firm to be safe in terms of risk in a country, and then they will be sometimes more profitable in their operation. And then we were talking about growth. Now, a firm would like to always grow, and there are mainly two ways of growing yourself. One is organic growth. An organic growth means, as an organization, you would like to expand your operation slowly and steadily and make it a large entrepreneur. But the other way is growth through acquisitions and mergers. Some firms, they are very good at taking over other firms who are in the industry, in the business, in the line of production, so that they easily increase their market share, easily expand. So a good example we can say is Microsoft. They would always like to take over the small firms which are coming into the industry, and they would, with their strong financial background, they would always take over. Aviva is a good example for a large entrepreneur who has started taking over small insurance companies. There are advantages and also disadvantages, but one of the main advantage that they are looking is to be a extensive or speedy growth. So as a growth option, the firms would like to acquire and merge with organizations. Also, they would like to increase the supply chain power. If you take an example, in Sri Lankan certain markets, they are basically run by few companies, few individuals. Now if you look at soft drink market, mainly if you look at the Elephant House, Ceylon Cold Stores, and pure, we call this pure beverages company, which is Coca-Cola. Basically they dominate the market. If these two organizations get together, they hold close to 90% of the total soft drink industry. So if they get together, the chances are they will like to set the price. They will enjoy supernormal profits because of that. They are the price maker of the industry. They enjoy the market share. So therefore, they can reduce their advertising cost on one side. The other side, they can enjoy supernormal profits. If you look at the milk powder market, again, it's the same. So when you find some key players in a market, and if you take over them, it will really increase your supply chain pricing power. So this is basically linked in a vertical merger. If you take the distributor, and then if you take over the manufacturer, and then if you take the retailer, you can enjoy many profits. Now if you take an example of Cargill supermarket, they have been able to give the best price in terms of their vegetables and fruits because they have taken many players in the supply chain, so that they can give the best price where the others are not in a position to take. Whereas if you look at Keel Super, they have been specialized or giving the best price in terms of meat items because they hold many points or many players or roles in the supply chain. So this gives a firm a supply chain the power to make the price and then to give the best price and the quality, and also the to enjoy many sales. Eliminate competition, as we discussed. The moment when you get together, when you two large organizations, you eliminate the competition. There's no threat for you. You are the market leader, so you can decide and you can make things happen. As a result, you will get many benefits and you will get a lot of savings. On top of it, as in the merger and acquisition, the synergy, the new talent will come into your organization, new ideas, fresh blood will organization that will improve your business. You can share practices and you can share the best ideas, take right decisions. With all these effects, you can become more and more successful, and you may have a certain resources that you have not used effectively. As a result, you may have not actually understand your potential, but when and another firm take over, they will identify your hidden talents and the potential, and then they use it to maximize the benefit. In other words, everybody will benefit at the end. These are some of the common, the main reasons where a firm would decide to take over another firm. But there are many more reasons, such as taxes. One of the main points for another firm to take over, the benefits of taxation. As we know, we have capital gain tax and then corporate taxes. And when it comes to merger and acquisitions, especially if your firm is not performing and used to create a lot of losses in the past, enjoying and combining would be the losses will be able to minimize your overall loss of the organization, and then the tax burden will reduce. So these are some of the main things that we discuss. The first one is the acquirer has a large cash flows with limited opportunities. Returning cash to shareholders expose them to taxes. So that's one reason. And then revaluing assets of the target company, and also losses of the target that have been carried forward can be used for the combined firm. I'll give you an example. Let's say A had decided to take over B, where A had a profit of 100 million and B have a loss of 50 million. When they combine or merge A and B, ultimately the company A, the overall A and B, the new profit would be 50 million. So therefore, if A used to pay, let's say 30% of tax, which is 30 million, now it will be reduced to 15 million because of this merger. So that makes A motivated to take over B. And so there are many other tax benefits in as an organization when we are combining with another firm. And also there are management related reasons for mergers. Some organizations, they will drive just to minimize the unsystematic risk, just to safeguard if your industry at a threat. It would be always advisable to diverse or reinvest in other industries so you can have a sustainable future. Or sometimes firms would go for a takeover risk. Now, if especially at a hostile bid, if you've been targeted by a company which you do not trust, you may think of merging with another firm just to avoid this takeover risk or as a survival strategy. And also the size preferences, and there are many other. So becoming a large organization, and sometimes to fulfill the management egos, sometimes just to say that we have an organization, this line of business, or we have this particular brand name in our group. So for many reasons, firms would like to go for mergers and acquisitions. Right, so just to go in detail, we discuss this especially at a time of a bankruptcy, or then at stabilizing the returns, we will go for mergers and acquisitions, and also to safeguard your business by a hostile takeover, and also to basically to maximize the wealth of your shareholders. Right, so with that, we would like to go to our next area, which is the main steps of merger and acquisition. So if you are interested of taking over another firm, one of the main things is you need to identify your right target. You need to know which organization that you would like to take over. It can be in the same line of business, it can be in the same supplier chain, or maybe it can be a totally different organization, but you need to know exactly your target. So that is where we said identifying a target. And then you need to have the right price. We discuss in detail about business valuation. You need to have the right price in order to take over another firm. And mode of acquisitions. What is mode of acquisition? How are you going to take over? There are mainly two modes we will discuss. One is through a friendly manner. Sometimes if that did not work, firms even try unfriendly manner. That's we call this hostile takeovers. And the mode of payment. How are we going to settle the payments, or when you are going to take over another firm, what are the ways that you are going to finance it, right? Okay, we'll be discussing all this in detail. So very simply, if you are going to decide what company that you are going to take over, you need to have a clear strategy, clear plan, clear understanding why you are going to take over a firm. This is very important to make it successful. If you are not sure why you are taking over the firm, there's a risk, there's a huge risk of making a success. So that's why we said it has to definitely have a sound strategy, and it should be value driven target. So valuation, I'm not going into detail because we will discuss this, we have been discussing this in the business valuation. So if you do not know the price, of course you cannot approach. So therefore you need to have a clear idea about what price I'm going to take over this firm. And when it comes to valuation, we learn there are mainly three approaches to value a firm, in terms of asset approach, in terms of income approach, and market approach. Just to give you a brief on asset approach, we understand or calculate the net asset value of the firm, either through historically or through a fair valuation, and try to understand what is the net asset value of the firm. Or we go the income approach, where we consider the future cash flows or income of the firm and trying to understand the present value of future cash flows, so that we can get a better idea about the value. And then the market approach, where we take either through a PE ratio when the firm do not have a readily available market price, or using the market price, the readily available market price which is getting from the stock exchange, and to value the market capitalization. So these are mainly the three approaches, and we have been discussing this, the main advantages and disadvantages of each approach. And then once we get the price, this is something that you need to know. When it comes to, when we decide, we have to know, okay, what is the price that we are going to take over this firm, and that will decide the target company value itself and the synergies that you are going to create because of this merger, where you need to have a realistic and a reliable estimate and other benefits that you are going to calculate. So you need to quantify and say, okay, this is the amount that I am willing to pay, and it should be always higher than the amount that you are going to pay for the firm, because it should be a win-win situation. So you need to get more benefits, it should be profitable for you, in other words, so more than what you pay. So an acquiree who is going to collect the payment in terms of cash or stocks or debt is in the other side, and where from our point of view, the acquirer's point of view, we should get a better return or higher value than what we are paying to make it a success. So then we need to discuss about mode of acquisitions. The mode is something that basically there are mainly two approaches for a firm to be acquire another firm. One is the friendly takeover, which is very understanding, where we first request through an invitation letter, and where the other firm accept it happily that they would like to take over or to be merged with another firm, and that's what we call the friendly acquisitions. And it's very important to get that buying from both the parties to make it successful. So normally a friendly acquisition will go to a proposal at an AGM, and where the shareholders agree, the majority happy to execute this acquisition. And where another way is when the firm or the target company reject. Normally they issue a letter of rejection to the bidding company that they are not interested of taking over or merging with this particular firm. In such instances, the company who is deciding to acquire, there's two choices: either to give up this entire exercise, or they can basically going for a hostile takeover. That is, without the intention of your target firm, you are going to take over. And that is also being seen today as a way of acquiring another firm. So mode of payment. How are we going to finance the merger? So which is the last and the most important step, because we need to understand each and every mode has its own benefits, and also it has its own disadvantages. So knowing them, it will be helpful to make the right decision in this payment mode. So if you take an example, there are mainly three modes for an organization to settle their money or the amount that you pay to the target firm. One, the most popular and the easiest, the cash mode, and through shares, or even certain organizations through debenture or loan stock, convertibles and preference shares. Here the convertible means there's an option to convert your debt into shares in the future. So therefore these are the main methods that you see in the world at a time of a financing a merger and an acquisition. So starting with cash payment. So let's quickly brush up what are the main advantages for an acquirer. So we are going to take over another firm. When we are paying from cash, the most important benefit is we are not going to dilute our ownership. If you have 100 shareholders, the 100 shareholders will remain same. Now they will be much more stronger, but we are not going to dilute our ownership, which is the most important thing. On the same time, it will be very clear and easy to understand by anyone. This is the amount you are going to pay. Is it worthwhile or not? Based on that, you will make a price. But one of the main disadvantages is it's a huge cash outflow. Sometimes you may have a financial crisis. You may face liquidity issues because of this merger and acquisition. So therefore, you need to be very clear whether you have enough financial resources in order to fund these through a cash payment. If you look at from a target company's shareholders point of view, now they get a certain value, because we will discuss in the shares, the prices are changing, this value also changes. But here, when you have a fixed amount, okay, this is the amount you pay by cash, then it will be very simplified and it's easy to understand. On the same time, they will be able to spread their investment. But one of the main disadvantages is, because you are getting a lot of cash straight into your business or to your hand, you will be charged capital gain taxes because of the quick gains that you are going to get from selling your shares. Let's move on to the shares. Now share means if you say A is going to take over B and you need to pay 50 million in terms of let's say pounds, instead of paying cash, you take the market price of the share and see, instead of cash, we issue shares for the value that you are going to pay to the target company. So one of the main advantage for you is you are not going to put a lot of cash. You are not going to be financially distress or crisis in your organization because you are not going to have a huge outflow. But on the same time, you will enjoy we call this PER, price earning ratio game, we call this bootstrapping, where we would like to take our existing PE ratio to the new firm, and as a result you can enjoy more benefits. One of the main disadvantage of this is it will dilute the control of the shareholders. Now this is one of the main advantages of the acquirer when they are going to pay by cash. But when they issue shares, of course, you are going to give your ownership to another party. So they may be loyal to your firm, they may not. So you take a risk by diluting your ownership and create a risk of overpaying, especially when you are paying through shares, because the share price is changing, especially at a time of an acquisition. When the share price is going up and down, you may end up with paying over the amount that you are supposed to pay, which will ultimately is not going to get the right benefit as you wish. So therefore, that's another weakness that you have to look after. And also unquoted acquirers may not be able to do this, especially when you do not have a readily available market price. This may be difficult to decide how many shares that you are going to share with another firm because there's no readily available market price. So these are some of the main advantages and disadvantages for an acquirer by going for a share exchange. Let's look at from a target company point of view. If you look at target company, somebody is going to take over us. So when you're going to take over, and if they are going to get through shares, of course we are not going to get cash. That will give you to postpone the capital gain tax liability, because we are not going to pay that money today because we are not going to get cash today. On the other hand, we will have the control of this large organization, so you will be part of it. You will be enjoying the shareholder rights of this larger firm. On the other hand, the target shareholders point of view, the value is uncertain as we discussed because the share price is changing, so therefore the value also uncertain, and then there will be they are unable to spread their investment because the transaction cost may be high because of the share exchange. So just to give you an idea of the price earning ratio, we discuss in detail. We go through what is this price earning ratio. Very simply, if X is the acquirer and Y is the target company, and if you can see in this situation, price earning ratio of X is 20 where Y is only 10. So therefore, having a higher PE, X is going to take over Y and trying to enjoy the same PE through the new acquisition, and as a result to get the benefit out of it. So this is where a price earning game means we are trying to use the price earning of the existing or the main company and take the target company also to the same level and enjoy the benefit for both the firms. So if you look at this situation, let's quickly do it, how it will impact so that you can refresh this. In this, there are two firms and X and Y where their total earnings are 1 million, 1 million, and the number of shares they have issued is million each. Earnings per share is also same, but the price earning ratio is different and the share prices are different. So very simply, the company X, the value is $2 into 10 million, $20 million. And for Y would be 10 into $1, it's gonna be $10 million. So when they combine without the price earning ratio, the value of the firm would be 30 million. Okay, but if they apply the price earning ratio, then how it's going to change? The total earnings of the firm of X and Y, it's going to be 1 million, 1 million. So the total earnings going to be 2 million. And the number of shares of X is 10 million and Y is 10 million. Okay, and the price earning is given 20. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to take the PE ratio. So we know that price earning ratio is 20. What is the new earnings? What is the total earnings of X and Y? Is 2 million. So therefore we can calculate the new price of the firm. So 2 into 20, X gonna be 40 million. I can see if they take isolatedly, the total of these two firms is gonna be 30 million. But if they use the price earning ratio game, the expected value of the firm is gonna be 40 million. If I want to know what is my expected share price, 40 million you divide by the number of shares, and then I can calculate what is the share price. So if this, so this is basically we take the same way we calculate. So the price earning ratio we apply, and then your share price is going to be 2.67 if they are trying to be combined together. So you can see share price of for X 2 has gone up to 2.67. So the shareholders basically benefit from that. Okay, now let's try to resolve another situation where you can see two companies, company A and company B, and each firm has a readily available market price and there is an offer. Now previous one we take it, let's say, as a cash offer and take this as a share exchange. How are we going to advise the shareholders of company B whether they should accept this project or not, or whether they should take over this firm or not? So based on this information, A is going to make an offer. Company A is going to make an offer where 3 new shares of A is going to issue 3 new shares for 5 shares of B. 5 shares of B. And they are expecting a synergy of 40 million. So if that's the case, we'll need to look at from a company B's shareholders point of view whether it's worthwhile to take over this offer. So let's quickly do this calculation just to refresh. So what is your decision as the company B shareholders? Okay, let's try to work out the calculation. First of all, we need to understand what are the two values of the firms. So, if you look at the situation of A, they have 200 million shares and their current market price is 4 rupees. So, if you look at A, 200 million shares at 4, their value is 800 million. If you look at B, we have 90 million into $2 per 2 rupees per share, which means 90 million 2 rupees, it's gonna be 180 million, right? If that's the case, these are their market values. What is the total value of the firm? Combining, if you take isolated two firms, it's going to be 980 million. It's 980 million. Now let's see what is the expected value with the synergy. A has calculated that they are going to get 40 million if they go ahead with B. So, for the firm that you calculate, you are going to get another 40 million. This is what? Synergies. So, your synergy is 40 million. So, the total value of the firm would be combine of this, that is 1020 million. Now, this is the new value of the firm. This is the new value of the firm. This is the total or the new value. Okay, fine. Now, let's try to understand the offer. If A is going to issue 3 shares for every 5 shares of B, how much of A shares that they are going to issue to take over this firm? So basically, this is something that you need to think, because for every 5 shares of B, we are going to get 3 shares of A. So my question is, how much of